Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's episode I'm going to have to find a way of pulling this harmonic balancer and front pulley drive off the front of the 6.3, so then we can eventually get the oil pump off and the crank out and then examine all the bearing journals and all that good stuff. So my friend Urban was kind enough to loan me a giant puller. Let me show you what we've got here. It's this big beast. So basically, let me get you in closer and I'll show you what problem I've been having with using something like this. This type of puller goes on like so, okay? And these blades here, you want those connected into the bottom of the valley of these pulley grooves, okay? You certainly don't want it landing on the pulley blade itself, because you could end up breaking them. But the trouble is with this guy, these bars, because this is not quite big enough to clear these grooves, the only place these bars will go is in this center groove here where there is no V. So anyway, it will mount on there, but what ends up happening is that the leading edge of this blade that you really want to bottom out on the bottom of the valley, as I say, doesn't do that. What happens is that it's shy about there, so then consequently this part of the puller rests on the blade, and you know that's no good. The puller will not go in behind the harmonic balancer because it's too tight back here. So that's our problem, and I'm not going to take any risks with this pulley because from my understanding this is balanced to this crankshaft and harmonic balancer, and if you damage this you obviously get a new one and you have to have everything rebalanced. So obviously we don't want to do that, so I'm going to have to come up with a homemade pulley puller for the 6.3, and I'll show you what I've done. Right, so like I say, I didn't even attempt to use that traditional bearing type puller. I don't think it could potentially do some damage to the pulley. So I came up with this guy, a couple of these angle brackets. They're designed to hook around the back of the harmonic balancer like so, and the reason this is here and it's curved to the pulley is because what was happening when I was starting to pull, because it was only making contact here, it was starting to want to do this and actually bend the bars, the pulling bars. I'll show you those in a sec. So I welded on this plate here to keep it locked and apply all the force directly, rather than, you know, losing some of the power and then obviously bending my rods. So this is the guy I came up with, essentially similar bar to Urban's one, you know, these crossbars captured here, plates on the end so they don't fall off, and then these two giant pullers here, okay, and then this big 3/4 inch rod that gets passed down the center and pushes on the center hub there. Now that looks pretty beefy, doesn't it? Okay, pretty heavy unit actually, a little tricky to set up, but gets a good amount of force on there. But even this, it didn't even blink an eye at this. These started to kind of start to bend as well, and I was putting so much stress on it, I started to be concerned that I was going to break something, to be honest with you. I really didn't want to damage this harmonic balancer. Went on the group site, Facebook, Mercedes Maintenance, to anyone that doesn't know, come join us. So I went on to the maintenance site, and several of you suggested pulling the pulley off first, okay, the pulley assembly, separating that from the harmonic balancer, then grabbing the balancer. But to be honest with you, these units weren't doing it, okay, and I didn't want to risk damaging the pulley, so I kind of didn't even attempt that. So I went back to the manual, and also I spoke to Duke, thanks Duke. This harmonic balancer is attached from the back side to the pulley with, what is it, 6 bolts, M14s bolts coming in from behind, okay, there's 6 of them. And in the manual, in the service manual, it says loosen 2, okay, and fit and it gives a big long serial number, pulling fixture, and that's it. They don't give any pictures or anything like that. So they're a little stumped on that. Loosen bolts off and then attach a fixture. But talking to Duke and looking at it, bing, there it is. That's what we've got to do. So I reached around the back and undid 3 bolts, not 2, 3 to spread the load. You'll see why in a minute. So the back goes all the way as far as they would go. You can't remove them because the space at the back there is too tight. Okay, I'll swing the camera in and let me show you right now and I'll show you. There you go. There they are. See, they're the ones I backed out, the ones that are proud there, and I left 3 in. So, like I say, they don't come all the way out because of the it hits the engine casing. So that's that. Right, so you've seen that. So what I did, I made up something. First of all, we got to attach bolts to there, inside there, to reach past the front of this pulley, right? Now I went down the hardware store. Up here they're a bit limited on metric stuff for any real length. They did have fairly long ones, 4 1/4, I think they were 4 1/2 in length, but not quite long enough. So I bought some threaded rod and I bought some connecting bar. Okay, so 3 of these guys. So first of all, I have to put those in the holes. Let me get you in close and I'll show you. So that's all it is, right? Threaded rod welded, so it's a fixed unit, okay? And we'll get it on the end of a socket, so it's easier to put in that way. We'll put those guys in there, right? Bottom those out. That's one. Right, there's those 3 in there. One other thing, in the manual, it says when you go to pull this, pull the pulley and the harmonic balancer off together as one unit. And it made an extra note, caution not to damage these fins. So I think they anticipated someone trying to pull this on its own, and it's not recommended. Pull it off as one unit. But anyway, so next thing, what I do, I put the nut back on. Now you'll see why in a minute. I just loosely put that on there. Okay, just to get it started. As kind of a guide, and you'll see why in a minute. Right, then, as I say, I was a bit disappointed with the last effort. So, this is 2 3/8 piece of plate steel. So making up 3/4 of an inch of solid steel. Okay, welded round there, drilled through, 120 degrees apart, obviously, for 360 degrees to match up with those guys. I think 1.75 inches on centre, from the centre here to centre of these. And then I welded on a large connecting threaded nut thing connector, whatever you call these. And the reason I did a long one, because a small nut, it's not as much threading, is it? We've got grade 8 bolts. Would have liked to have got grade 10-9, but they didn't have them. But we'll see how we get on with this. So obviously what we do now is thread these guys, this is a little tricky, into those receiving sleeves. Right, so we threaded those in, tighten those guys up. I think you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Okay, so then, same rod that we used on the other bit, because why not? Let me get a little grease on this. Right, so we greased it, pointed the end obviously, so it engages with that, and then in we go. Take up the slack with this. This is just a weedy little starter one. Make sure. So you can see why now I put that nut on there. That's to make sure it's definitely engaged, because I can't quite, could have drilled a little inspection hole, but it takes a while drilling through this stuff. So, will this work? Let's stand back and see. We're going to put the impact gun on this, and unfortunately I couldn't find, this is a 1-inch nut here, I couldn't find an impact socket in 1 inch at the store, so Ideally, obviously, it's going to need an impact socket to crank this bugger, because we're going to need the pneumatic gun. So let's see if this works, shall we? Also, another reason, logically, the closer you are to the hub, the force from this, as I see it, is more transferred directly on pulling it rather than grabbing on the outside. You're kind of losing some leverage force. That's how I see it anyway when I picture this. So let's see if this works, shall we? We got it. I'm just going to remove the nut that's in there, because that will stop it coming all the way off. I'll be a sec. Okay, before I cut, I took that nut out of the way so it allowed the thing to come off. And also, I'm sure some of you are saying, well, why don't you get a regular harmonic balancer puller, those funny little triangular looking things with slots in it. But to be honest with you, they just didn't look strong enough, because this is a monster. I tell you, I'm talking to Doug, he told me how tight these guys are on it, so some kind of interference fit. I mean, I'm going to actually bore check and micrometer the crank to see how tight of a fit that is. And honestly, what they had available didn't look manly enough. So this looks like it's doing the trick. So a little bit more of a blast and that should come off. I'll put it on low power now. Make sure it don't crash to the floor in a minute. Got ya. Success. I'm going to go and have my dinner now, and I'll be back in a sec, or in a few minutes. So, like I say, very glad about that. It worked very well. I think getting the puller more central to the core of the crankshaft helped a great deal. It transferred the pulling force directly to this area rather than to the outside. And as I say, the currently available pullers I just don't think are up to the task. So that's why I made my own. And the bolts that went through, just for reference, I think these are M14s and they're 150 pitch threaded. And the little inserts I had to get just because these weren't long enough. But other than that, it's all a pretty simple design. And yeah, I think someone with you don't really need a welder, do you? If you've got some of this thick plate or something already from a metal workshop somewhere, you know, throwing it out, it was enough. I think probably 3/8 would have done it, but I wanted to go a bit over the top to make sure we didn't have another failure. Well, thanks a lot for watching, guys. In the next episode, as I say, we've got a few measuring items to take care of, the end play, and making sure that we know the spec of that. But it's really neither here nor there, because we're going to be replacing the bottom bearings anyway. So but just out of curiosity, see what the wear is like, and get this front plate off, crank out, all the rest stripped down, and get it off to the machine shop for assessment of the scoring and how much we have to rebore to. And before I do that, I'll be getting pistons ordered, get those specs in and get those pistons actually to the machine shop before he does anything to this. So he's got them right there on the bench and he can do all the measuring. And in the meantime, I'll busy myself with other things around the shop. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Remember to tune into Facebook Mercedes Maintenance and Mercedes Rescue if you're looking for a car, and we'll see you there. So look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care, and please hit like, share, subscribe as well. Alright, cheers guys, thanks, bye bye.